information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-522-2174. 800-522-2174. 800-522-2174.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this hour of the Shaun Thompson Show is sponsored exclusively by DonleyAuctions.com. They need your guns. Sell for top dollar. DonleyAuctions.com.
From the streets of Melrose Park to the trading floor of the Merc, he's fought for every dollar he's ever earned. And now, with personal liberty and our system of capitalism under assault in America, he's here to seize back our rights from the government. With a cigar in one hand and a copy of the Declaration of Independence in the other, he's Shaun Thompson. And this is the Shaun Thompson Show.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag. Ooh, they're red, white, and blue.
Every time I have my next guest on, I am more than just flattered and proud. It's because I understand how easy it would have been for him to be dragged into the forever bureaucracy and become a cog in the wheel that is destroying the American principles. Instead, he stands up constantly for the American principles. He's the president of the Institute for the American Future, president and CEO of Save the Persecuted Christians, somebody whose name you first heard as an assistant secretary of defense in the Reagan Pentagon. His name is Frank Gaffney. Frank, how are you?
I am always better for having a chance to visit with you, my friend. Thank you, Shaun. It's great to be with you.
This is a great time for us to be talking about the things that have been the underbelly of corruption and scandal and weakening America for decades. That's how I view what we're facing right now. We have never been at a better position to destroy the nefarious forever bureaucracies that have been really attacking the American prosperity on all fronts. I feel that way about I am beyond impressed with the Trump administration, and I was skeptical in 2015, 2016. Did we lose you?
No. Do you want me to respond to that?
I want you to respond to how
you toss it to me.
Well, I'm going to tell you why.
I thought you were in mid-stride.
No, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you why. Because I did not think he would be this successful at exposing the kind of corruption he has exposed with the kind of people he's exposed it with, from Tulsi Gabbard to now Pulte, and the way in which the bureaucracy is flummoxed. I love.
Well, let me respond to that. I do think that he has exposed the underbelly of the permanent bureaucracy, if you will, the fourth branch of government, as it's been called by some. And I think what he's also demonstrated that it is politically aligned, as well as, exercising control that the framers of our Constitution, and we're celebrating, this epic birthday of our Declaration of Independence in 2 months, a little less now, actually, almost exactly a month.
Yeah.
But that Constitution, took a while to gestate and ultimately be adopted. But those who were involved in the founding of this country never contemplated, I believe, a caste of government officials who were more or less wholly unaccountable. And, that breaks down the balance of power, the checks and balances specifically that they were striving to bake in, because they frankly didn't trust anybody. They thought that the Congress could be, abusive. They thought that the executive could be abusive. They thought that the judiciary could be abusive, and they wanted them to control each other. But at no point, I think, did they anticipate that there would be this group that, despite what accountable branches of the government, the executive and legislative branches specifically, or even the courts, engaged in terms of trying to provide supervision or checking abuses of power or corruption, as you put it, that these folks could essentially act with impunity, no matter what. And that is what has been exposed. That I would like to think is being not just exposed but corrected in an enduring way. That's the other piece of this, Shaun, as you understand so well. If everybody thinks that they can just wait out the Trump administration and it'll revert to full business as usual, that would be a very unhappy outcome here. There needs to be a codification of these changes, I think, these efforts to make the government both smaller, more efficient, more effective, and more accountable in statute. And I don't unfortunately see that happening in the near future unless there is a significant wave of support for this president in the upcoming midterm elections.
Well, what else he's changed the trajectory on, as I see it, is, you know this, you've seen it yourself. Cowardice is contagious, but so is courage. And to see these people speak openly about the scandal that it has become so much of our pretend intelligence communities, and now the real scandal that Tulsi Gabbard exposes, that Trump exposes, and that the American people want to see solved, is the scandal of whether it's the CIA agent with $60 million in gold bars and cash in his Virginia house, or the idea that Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, the intelligence agencies led by a cuckold communist like Brennan and the rest of it, concocted this notion that it was Trump that was the traitor. Well, it's always been them. It's always been this entity that has given the choices to the American people that really kind of you saw firsthand as they neutered the presidents that talked against these agencies, whether it's Kennedy, whether it's Reagan, Nixon to a certain extent. I played a clip earlier of Nixon complaining about these entities and these agencies, and then Trump himself. So the real scandal, the biggest political scandal we have, is the Biden administration, is the intelligence agencies concocting, undermining. That's really the biggest scandal this country's ever had, as I see it, and only a few of us are discussing it.
Well, I think you're right. It seems to me as though more people would be discussing it more, well, vigorously, shall we say, if there were prosecutions that were bringing forth, indictments and trials and evidence that justice is going to be served. I think people have despaired of that. And in part, I want to hold, one of the guys accountable for that. And I don't know whether it's corruption exactly, but it certainly is not good government. And that's John Thune, the majority leader of the United States Senate, who's hammer-strung the president on his appointments to, the U.S. attorneys and to judges and to, the whole progress of his agenda, largely, with the notable exception of, I guess, the one big, beautiful bill and a couple of other matters. But the point is that without the control of the government that is supposed to flow from, the Senate doing its job and the president having the ability to make his appointments, it trickles into the judiciary and the whole, process of justice in a way that I think is discouraging a lot of people, and therefore this scandal is not getting the attention or the action, more to the point, that it requires.
Well, what else is interesting, too, is, John Thune, is he not, seriously, the perfect politician? You could not have manufactured a better mannequin illusion of representation than a career politician like Thune. He's perfect. What is his big accomplishment in the private sector? He doesn't have one. He's been cultivated from the time he was a young man, and he was Mitch McConnell's asshat, as it's called in my neighborhood. Some call it assistant. But that's what he was. And he's been created, and his hair is perfect, and he's tall and handsome. I mean, look at him. You would almost forget for a minute. He has been completely manufactured to give you the illusion of representation. He will tell you anything. He's as good as Barack Obama, only more articulate. And this is what he doesn't understand, and the body politic in Caligula called Washington, D.C. doesn't understand. The real support of the common, ordinary American, the everyday man, the taxpayer, the mom, the kids, is with the American First principles. John Thune doesn't know it, but he's an unelected bureaucrat anyway. He will lose any primary challenge. He's going to be a footnote, as they all are. And what Donald Trump, as I see it, and it's very interesting when you look at Linda McMahon. Look at what she did. Here's what's Linda McMahon. She was a private sector person. She was actually the one who ran the organization. She gets in. They put her as the secretary of the Department of Education, which every politician since Reagan said we're going to rip down. After all, it was brand new, signed by Jimmy Carter. And she has done more to weaken that bureaucracy of illiteracy, of scandal, of the lowest achievements in the education system of America since the 70s, and she's ripped it down to almost nothing. And I think that's what he's doing, only he's doing it by his foreign policy. And when you look from Venezuela to Cuba to Iran, and you look at the politicians supporting all of these entities, they're all the scallywags and scum, whether it's Thune or Cory Booker. It's beautiful, and he's tearing it down from within. He's doing more from that position than any senator, any congressman, or any so-called leader in the House could ever do. But I'm very optimistic. How do you see it?
I think you're right about what the president will do if given an opportunity to have an impact on John Thune's future, much as we saw him do with Bill Cassidy and John Cornyn and Thomas Massey. The question is, how much damage is John Thune going to do in the meantime? And the thing that most troubles me really is, especially with Cornyn and Cassidy and Tillis, and on a good day, Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski are not reliable. Yeah. The president, even if he doesn't suffer, serious setbacks in the fall elections, and there's some who think that's a real prospect in the United States Senate, he's going to be hamstrung. At best, at worst, he's going to be really undermined. They've already started acting out a bit, and I suspect they'll be doing more of it in the months to come. So, I'm fearful for our constitutional republic, honestly, if it kind of slides into inertia at best, and at worst, real undermining of the president. And I'm thinking in part, among other things, of, the war in Iran at the moment, which is, set, as I'm seeing it right now, to result in some kind of, well, the term, as you know, Shaun, in Arabic is hudna. Hudna is the Arabic word for basically a pause. It's not a ceasefire exactly. It is a pause. And going back to Muhammad's day, various Muslim, potentates have used it when they've gotten into trouble. The military tide is turned against them. They do a hudna, a pause, in order to rearm, to regroup, and then to resume the hostilities under more favorable circumstances. That's what I fear is being teed up now with the ceasefire, the 60 days, and all the rest of it that is now in prospect. But more to this point, I think that if we don't have a decisive victory, what the Senate is going to do, they basically did it already. But the House has not followed suit just yet, but they're going to try to cut off the funds for this war effort, much as they did, back in the 1970s, which engineered the loss of Vietnam.
I'm thinking about this, and it's very, it's very interesting, because you remember, you were a young man. This is right in the beginning of the 47-year conflict that we pretend we're not in. We've always been in. And you remember Iran and all of the chaos and all of what he's done. And there are a couple things that I think are very important to have the perspective to understand what I view as a change in the complete organization of foreign policy for America. Number one, he is aligned with some of the countries that we were never aligned with. Whether you talk of the UAE, you talk of the destroying the cartel of OPEC, you talk about Venezuela, and last week was a very big week, and most people didn't talk about it. It was the largest export we had to the people or the countries that were getting their oil from Iran came to the Gulf of America last week. 5 million barrels in a day exported. It's never been done before. So he's changed the base supply chain to China, to Asia, to countries that never bought their oil from us. They bought it from Iran. So I like what he's done with realigning that, and he's exposed the would-be friendly, although they're theocracies in one form or another, but they're friendly to America, and he's restructured them as true allies versus the allies we thought we had who were always working to undermine us. I think that's incredibly important. And now when it comes to the funding, most people don't know, but you know, about Executive Order 11,905 that was signed by a Republican that I believe was completely orchestrated by George Bush when he was the CIA director. And I'm going to refresh everybody's memory so they're caught up to speed with us.
Executive Order 11,905 is a United States presidential executive order signed on February 18, 1976, by President Gerald R. Ford as an attempt to reform the United States intelligence community, improve oversight on foreign intelligence activities, and ban political assassination. Much of the CO would be changed or strengthened by Jimmy Carter's Executive Order 12,036 in 1978. Background: the executive order was created and signed by Gerald Ford after the Church Committee and Pike Committee had divulged secrets about the U.S. intelligence community in the 1970s. But
now I had to get AI to read it because nobody wants to talk about this. And what this does is allow foreign nations to give money specifically and directly for foreign and domestic activities to our intelligence agencies. And this has been going on since the 70s, which explains so much of the Middle East money and corruption and Republicans and Democrats administration and why nobody gets to see the budgets of the CIA and the rest of it. They don't have to divulge who's paying them. So even though the cuckold communists in the Senate may say, we're going to cut off the war, that doesn't mean we have to stop the funding. There are other ways to get funding, thanks to the very bureaucracy that wanted to build a forever government anyway. So instead of getting rid of 11,905 and 12,237, he could actually use the corruption it was intended for to go and finish the job with the Islamo-Nazis, in theory, couldn't he?
Oh, in theory, I suppose. I don't think it works that way because, among other things,
you have to forgive me. I'm an old bookmaker's kid. Yeah.
Possibly in revolt, you'd have the judicial branch weighing in too. But the bigger point is, I think we're of a mind, Shaun, that he has to finish the job. If we're committed to preventing endless wars, the one that started 47 years ago, not by us, but by the mullahs of Iran, to say nothing of 1,400 years ago, by the so-called perfect man, Muhammad, this would be a good time to bring it to an end. And that won't be because we've given them a hudna, which gives them a new lease on life. It'll be because we decisively defeat them and help the people of Iran liberate themselves from any such regime in the future, please God.
Now, although the organization of the money that comes into America for the Antifa, for the protests, it's three times greater than the money that comes in support of Western values in the form of Israel. That's been outed too. That so many of these so-called podcasters and personalities, former personalities like Tucker, they're on a payroll from Islamo-Nazi Iran theocracy, Hezbollah and Hamas and all the rest of it. Qatar. They're on the payroll, Qatar and the rest of it. So this is out of the closet now, and this information is pretty well known, and a lot of shows other than mine are talking about it. This is something that maybe we could put a stop to as well. Can the Trump administration, in fact, repeal the idea that these entities, these nefarious actors in the Middle East and in Central and South America, because after all, they're all in conjunction with China. The drug dealers and China, and we just stop the money flow into these personalities who are propagandizing the destruction of my country? What do you think?
Well, I think there are instruments that can be used. I'd like to think of RICO, for example.
I like
because
this.
what's being done is crime. Really, I think they are suborning individuals for sure, and in so doing, they are promoting. I think treachery. Sedition, even in some cases. And Neville Singham Roy, just to name one out of China, is a prime candidate for this. I think he's under investigation as things stand now, as is his wife, the co-founder of Code Pink, a communist operation. They're making common cause in the red-green axis with jihadists, of course. And all of this is conducing to real threats to our republic. So if people are complicit in that, are aiding and abetting it, I think they ought to be under investigation too, even if they claim that this is just an exercise of free speech. In service of treachery or treason against our country, I don't think that's going to stand up.
Now, you have been there watching so much of what has happened. I mean, for years, and I'm so impressed with you because you could have easily gone the other direction and been a cog in this destructive machine, and instead you didn't. You stood up for it. So I know you also know the inside players and how it operates forever. I have been really impressed with somebody who I didn't think I would be. And that is two people, really, Scott Bessent and Marco Rubio. When you look at the combination of what they're doing and you look at the performance that Marco Rubio has done, and including today's testimony in front of these fraud politicians, and when you look at Scott Bessent and his willingness to discuss the flow of money and the way it's been allowed by past Treasury secretaries and by so many people that could have stopped it and exposed it, and you see his willingness to talk about it and potentially stop it, have we been ever in a better position to stop the erosion through the bastardization of policy, foreign money in our own government, and somebody like Marco Rubio, who knows right from wrong, whether we're talking about Cuba or Iran and the rest of it, and understands how to combat verbally the lack of intelligence and the willingness to expose their corruption in the Democrat Party?
Shaun, I'm going to go out on a limb. I think these are the two finest secretaries of state and secretary of the Treasury in my lifetime.
Yeah,
they
that's
are
saying something right there.
They are people. Well, they are people that I probably haven't agreed with absolutely everything that they've done. On Scott Bessent, I think he's trying to work a little more magic with the Chinese than I would like. But on the other hand, I think overall, what he's serving in a very important way, this president, in doing is, as you said a moment ago, the business about people buying our oil instead of others. I'm afraid some of that oil was bought by the Chinese, as I understand it. But I do think that this changing the character of the oil markets in a way that is going to conduce to people finding it important to have good relations with us rather than, work with people who are trying to, bring death to America, for example.
Yeah.
That's a great credit to both Marco Rubio and Scott Bessent that there is progress being made on that front. I just am very anxious to make sure they finish the job.
Oh, I am too. And I think, obviously, ultimately it'll take a Carthaginian peace. Everybody knows that. But if we can get 90% of the way there, it's fantastic. And when you put on there
salt in the ground.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm in favor with respect to the Iranian regime. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And the other thing, too, that we don't have much time, but I am in awe at the way he has shut down the drug stream, the drug distribution, the border. I mean, that is something I didn't think I'd see, let alone in the record time he did it. So the scumbags in our country and in foreign countries, they're a little more nervous than they're used to. Wouldn't that be a fair statement?
Well, I sure hope so, and I hope we can make them more nervous or put them out of their misery, better yet, because the damage that they've been doing to this country is just incalculable. And just one quick thought at the end of our conversation. There have been many more people killed by fentanyl alone coming from communist China than died in the entire Vietnam War.
Yeah,
and that's in many years, that's been on a yearly basis, by the way. What is being done now to end that, I think, is of vital importance because among other people being killed, are military-aged men mostly.
Yeah.
And that is an act of chemical warfare against our country and should be treated as such.
I agree. They should be hesitant of the old timers, Frank. We got a little gas in the tank. Come on now. We could handle it.
Amen.
Frank
Amen.
Gaffney, president of the Institute for the American Future. You can find him at usfuture.org. Frank, thanks for always making time for me. I know how busy you are. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
It's my privilege. Thank you, my friend. God bless you.
Thank you, brother. You too. We'll be back with your calls and comments.
This is the Shaun Thompson Show, where Democrats are always wrong, Republicans are seldom right, and politicians are never, ever to be trusted on AM 560.